Thanks for joining me on the news. The headline says no less than 20 injured as Russia strikes Ukraine again. In Israeli West-occupied Bank, Israeli troops kill a Palestinian, 4 wounded. Moscow warns Ukraine bound ships on Black Sea. 2 killed ahead of World Cup in New Zealand. And Stratford president resigns after research probe. Stay with me for these and more stories. Talking Russia-Ukraine war, regional governor Vitaly Kim said at least 18 people have been injured by a Russian air raid on the Ukrainian port city of Mykolaiv, while other authorities in the Odessa region reported 2 wounded in a third night of air attacks. A 3-story residential building was hit in the Mykolaiv city center early on Thursday morning, Kim wrote on social media. 5 children were among 18 people wounded, Kim said, without specifying their condition or if they had been in the residential building. Emergency services were working at the site, he added. Ukraine's Air Force cautioned on Telegram that supersonic missiles had been launched by Russia in the direction of the Odessa region on Thursday morning. It called on people to stay under cover. 2 people were hospitalized after a Russian attack on Odessa city damaged a building and caused a fire, according to Odessa administration spokesperson Siri Bratchuk. Another attack was reported outside the city, he wrote on Telegram. Russia launches hellish second night attack on Ukraine's Odessa. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky condemned the second night of Russian drone and missile attacks on Odessa on Wednesday, saying that Moscow is attacking the entire world, not just Ukrainians. About 1 million tons of food is stored in the ports that were attacked today. This is the volume that should be given or delivered to consumer countries in Africa and Asia long ago, Zelensky wrote on Twitter. The port terminal that suffered the most from the Russia terror last night had 60,000 tons of agricultural products stored in it, which were intended to ship to China. Everyone is affected by this Russian terror. Everyone in the world should be interested in bringing Russia to justice for terror, he wrote. There were also reports of an attack in Russian-controlled Crimea early on Thursday. The Moscow-installed governor of the region said a Ukrainian drone attack in northwest Crimea had damaged administrative buildings and killed a teenage girl. On Israel-Palestine conflict, the Palestinian Health Ministry and the Red Crescent said Israeli forces have shot a Palestinian dead and wounded no less than 4 others, 2 in serious condition, in the occupied West Bank city of Nablus. The Palestinian Health Ministry said a person was shot dead before dawn on Thursday as Palestinian fighters said they were confronting Israeli forces and settlers in the Nablus area, according to reports. At least 4 Palestinians sustained gunshot wounds and 2 were in serious condition. The Palestinian Red Crescent said in what it described as clashes with Israeli forces in the eastern part of Nablus, a northern occupied West Bank city that has been a traditional center of Palestinian residents or resistance to Israeli occupation. The Nablus Battalion of Al-Quds Brigades, the armed wing of the Islamic Jihad group, said its members were fighting the occupation forces and groups of settlers who had stormed the area of Joseph's tomb, referring to a shrine in the city that has been repeated clashes between Palestinians and Israeli forces. Israel's military did not quickly respond to a request for comment on the latest killing of a Palestinian, which follows the raid by Israeli forces earlier this month on the Jenin refugee camp, located about 41 kilometers 25 miles away, that killed 12 Palestinians, injured approximately 100 others, caused thousands to flee, and inflicted widespread destruction on civilian infrastructure. 1 Israeli soldier was killed during the raid on Jenin. Israeli forces killed 11 Palestinians and wounded over 80 people, some of them critically, in February during a raid on Nablus involving 150 troops and dozens of armored vehicles. The raid followed less than a month after 10 Palestinians were killed in a similar attack in the Jenin refugee camp. Violence in the West Bank has worsened over the past 15 months with augmented Israeli raids, settler rampages in Palestinian villages, and street attacks by Palestinians. Russia has warned that ships journeying into Ukraine's Black Sea ports will be considered potential military aid, as Kyiv said it will set up a temporary shipping route to continue grain exports following Moscow's withdrawal from a deal that allowed food shipments from Ukraine's ports. On Wednesday, Russia's defense ministry said that it would deem all ships traveling to Ukraine to be potentially carrying military cargo on behalf of Kyiv, and the flag countries of such ships will be considered parties to the Ukrainian conflict. In a statement, the defense ministry said it will implement its new stance towards ships in the Black Sea starting at midnight Moscow time on Wednesday. The defense ministry did not say what actions it might take towards ships traveling to Ukraine. Russia also declared southeastern and northwestern parts of the Black Sea's international waters to be temporarily unsafe for navigation, the ministry said, without giving details about the parts of the sea which will be affected. Ukraine said on Wednesday it was establishing a temporary shipping route via Romania, one of the neighboring Black Sea countries. Its goal is to facilitate the unblocking of international shipping in the northwestern part of the Black Sea. Vasyl Shurakov, Ukraine's acting minister for communities, territories and infrastructure development, said in a letter to the United Nations Shipping Agency, the International Maritime Organization. Now on gun violence, on Thursday, a gunman killed 2 people at a downtown construction site in New Zealand's largest city of Auckland as the nation prepared to host games in the FIFA Women's World Cup tournament. Authorities said the attacker was also dead and that 6 other people, including at least 1 police officer, were injured during the shooting. The violence took place near hotels where Team Norway and other football teams have been staying. Chris Hipkins, New Zealand Prime Minister, said the tournament will go ahead as planned. Clearly, with the FIFA World Cup kicking off this evening, there are a lot of eyes on Auckland, Hipkins said. The government has spoken to FIFA organizers this morning and the tournament will proceed as planned. I want to reiterate that there is no wider national security threat. This appears to be the action of one individual. Hipkins said the attacker was armed with a pump-action shotgun. Police arrived 1 minute after the first emergency call and had run into harm's way to save lives, he said. These kinds of situations move fast and the actions of those who risk their lives to save others are nothing short of heroic, Hipkins added. Acting Police Superintendent Sonny Patel said the man began shooting at the site on Lower Queen Street at about 7:20 a.m. local time. He moved through the building, firing at people there, Patel explained. Police swarmed the area. It wasn't immediately clear if the police shot the gunman or if he killed himself. Outside, police officers had the commercial business district on heavy lockdown with streets condoned off surrounding the tourist Harbour Ferry terminal area. Police demanded bystanders disperse and ordered people inside their office buildings to shelter in place. The incident comes as football teams and fans gathered in New Zealand for the FIFA Women's World Cup. The opening match is scheduled for Thursday between New Zealand and Norway. On education matters, the president of Stanford University has stepped down in the rows of an independent probe that found substandard practices in research papers he was involved in. On Wednesday, Mark Tessier-Lavigne, the leader of the prestigious California University, issued a statement saying he will leave his post effective August 31st. Media reports in the United States had raised questions about falsified data in research linked to Tessier-Lavigne, a prominent neuroscientist from Ontario, Canada. But on Monday, a scientific panel commissioned by Stanford's Board of Trustees cleared Tessier-Lavigne of participating in any misconduct, though it did find serious flaws in the research papers reviewed. The panel has identified evidence of manipulation of research data in at least 4 of the 5 primary papers at issue, he wrote in a report. But the panel did not find evidence to conclude that Dr. Tessier-Lavigne engaged in, directed, or knew of the misconduct when it occurred. The group also found that a scientist's exercising reasonable care could not have been expected to detect the research flaws at that time, though it did fault Tessier-Lavigne for failing to decisively and forthrightly correct mistakes in the scientific record. The panel, comprised of neuroscientists, biologists, and 1 Nobel laureate, examined 12 research papers Tessier-Lavigne participated in, 7 in which he was a non-principal author, and 5 where he was listed among the leads. The review, it said, involved filtering through 50,000 documents and holding more than 50 meetings with witnesses and individuals involved in the scandal. Questions about Tessier-Lavigne's scientific work started to emerge on the platform Popier, where scientists can discuss and evaluate research online. Their commenters, like scientist Elizabeth Beek, raised concerns as far back as 2015 about images in Tessier-Lavigne's research that appeared to be digitally altered. One research paper in particular, published in the journal Nature in 2009, sought to identify causes for brain degeneration in Alzheimer's patients. Tizia Levine's employer at the time, biotech company Genentech, hailed the paper as groundbreaking research that offered an entirely new way of looking at the cause of Alzheimer's disease, the sixth leading cause of death in the United States. Because of this research, we are working to develop both antibodies and small molecules that may attack Alzheimer's from a novel entry point and help the millions of people who currently suffer from this devastating disease, the company wrote in its annual reports. But scientists struggle to reproduce the results documented in the 2009 paper, leading to questions about the accuracy of its data or whether it had been falsified altogether. Here are more stories. More than 300 detained in Kenya protests. Yesterday, over 300 people were arrested as Kenyans took to the streets to protest the high cost of living. The protests were called by Azimio leader Raila Odinga, who has promised to mobilize more protests on Thursday. Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki said they were detained in Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru and other towns where police clashed with protesters. There were also reports of 2 people shot dead in Kisumu, but the CS and police did not immediately confirm. Odinga has vowed protests will continue on Thursday, declaring Kenyans should not give up. He confirmed that his bodyguard Maurice Ogeta had been freed by police and called for the release of at least 9 Azimio leaders arrested during Wednesday's protest. Among those arrested in Embakasi East, MP Babu Owino, Kilifi Senator Stewart Madzayo, among others. Several of Azimio supporters were also arrested in Nairobi, Mombasa, Nakuru and other towns as police fired tear gas as protesters who took to the streets in defiance of a government warning after earlier demonstrations turned violent with more than a dozen people killed in the past 2 weeks. The opposition has vowed to stage 3 straight days of protests against President William Ruto's government, alarming the international community, which has joined calls for a political solution to the crisis. Schools and shops were closed in Nairobi and the opposition bastions of Mombasa and Kisumu, with small groups of mostly young men setting fire to tires and engaging in running battles with police. But the government issued a statement late Wednesday ordering schools to reopen on Thursday. There are more stories after this short break. Stay with us. You're welcome back. Here are more stories. We begin with Nigerians in fear over fuel price hike. On Wednesday, members of the organized private sector voiced fear over the possible shutdown of businesses and job losses following the surge in the pump price of premium motor spirit PMS, popularly called petrol, by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited and fuel marketers. The NNPCL and other oil marketers on Tuesday raised the price of petrol from about 537 naira per litre to between 617 naira and 630 naira per litre, a development that stoked widespread anger across the country. The President Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, commenting on the matter, Francis Mushoye, said the unpredictability of fuel price hikes will take a severe toll on manufacturers who already had to readjust budgets to factor in the added cost caused by the removal of fuel subsidy. He said the rise in fuel price had already elevated the cost of logistics, which will be compounded by the newest hike, stating that given the trend, there were fears among manufacturers that this might not be the final addition, and urged the government to develop a culture of engaging major stakeholders before decisions with far-reaching consequences such as this were taken. On his part, the President Association of Small Business Owners of Nigeria, Femi Agbeshola, stated worry that more businesses will collapse due to the increased hardship that will characterize the operating environment. According to him, increasing the pump price of petrol at the time, small businesses were fighting for their lives as a result of the recent removal of fuel subsidy was a sledgehammer that will annihilate many SMEs. Also speaking, the National Vice President, Nigeria Association of Small-Scale Industrialists, Segun Kuti George, said the development will put further strain on businesses that were already grappling with increased costs associated with the government's recent economic reforms. Now, Tinubu, Shetima, Akpabio governors meet over palliative distribution. On Wednesday, President Bola Tinubu met with Vice President Kashim Shettima, the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, and some members of Nigeria Governors Forum (NGF) to finalize arrangements on the distribution of palliatives to reduce the impact of the fuel subsidy removal. The removal of fuel subsidy has brought untold hardships on Nigerians as prices of food items have risen terribly, thereby stoking outcry among the citizenry. President Tinubu met the price of fuel at 195 naira per litre, but at the day of his inauguration on May 29th, he announced that subsidy is gone. At the end of his administration, ex-President Muhammadu Buhari had removed fuel subsidy but had delayed the implementation till end of June. But worried by the economic hardship the subsidy removal on petrol has caused to Nigerians, President Tinubu has continued consultation with major players on how to get the economy on sound footing. Thus, the President and his Vice President, Senator Shettima, met with the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, and some governors, including those of Imo, Kwara, Lagos, and Ogun State. Former Governor Abdullahi Ganduje of Kano State was also part of the meeting. Dele Aleke, Presidential Advisor on Special Duties, Communications and Strategy, explained that the meeting also looked at how to finalize arrangements on the distribution of palliatives to cushion the effects of the fuel subsidy removal. The President had earlier proposed the distribution of grains and fertilizers to farmers also as part of measures to boost food security in the country. Still on the news, Ganduje may emerge APC national chair. There were signs yesterday that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the governors on the platform of the All Progressives Congress APC may have endorsed former Kano State Governor Abdullahi Umar Ganduje as replacement for the former national chairman of the party, Abdullahi Adamu. With the development, it is possible that the defunct Congress for Progressive Change CPC bloc, which produced ex-President Muhammadu Buhari, may have again taken a backseat in the scheme of things in the party's leadership. According to reports on Tuesday, it was said that the former governor of Nasarawa State, Senator Umar Tanko Al-Makura, who is a fervent member of the CPC bloc, and Senator Sani Musa from Niger State were being considered as possible replacements for Adamu. However, it was learned last night that despite pressure on President Tinubu to maintain the chairmanship position in the North Central, he settled for Ganduje, apparently to pacify the Northwest Zone, which had insisted on producing the Senate President of the 10th National Assembly. It was also gathered that 4 APC governors, including chairman of the Progressive Congress, Governors Forum PGF, and Imo State Governor Hope Uzodinma, is his Kwara State counterpart, and 2 others led to meet with Tinubu at the presidential villa yesterday. At the meeting, the president was said to have briefed the former Kano governor of the plan to make him APC national chairman instead of minister as earlier planned. According to reports, Ganduje, who had made Tinubu's ministerial list, was asked to nominate someone as his replacement for Kano State. The news of Adamu and Omishore's resignation broke on Sunday night but was not confirmed until Monday after the National Working Committee (NWC) meeting of the party. A source within the party who confirmed the development said the choice of Ganduje as the new chairman will be revealed at the party's National Executive Committee (NEC) meeting, which was postponed indefinitely on Monday. It was also learned that a former Senate spokesman in the 9th Assembly, Senator Ajibola Bashiru from Osun State, has been tipped to replace the former party's National Secretary Ayola Omoshire, who tendered his resignation letter alongside Adamu. On the choice of Ganduje as the next APC chairman, President Tinubu has settled for the former Kano State Governor Ganduje to replace Senator Abdullahi Adamu as the party's national chairman, according to reports. Governor Uzodinma, chairman of the PGF, however, speaking after a meeting of the APC governors at Imo Governor's Lodge last night, refused to comment on the development. He neither confirmed nor denied that Ganduje had been contacted to become the next national chairman of the party. Senator Abubakar Kyari, deputy national chairman of the party, had on Monday announced Adamu's exit as chairman after a meeting of the party's National Working Committee (NWC) at the party's National Secretariat in Abuja. And finally, on the news, Mesoma begs jam over result forgery. Mesoma Ije Keme, an Anambra State pupil who forged her unified tertiary matriculation examination result, appeared on Wednesday before an ad hoc committee of the House of Representatives in Abuja. The teenager, who had admitted to manipulating her score from 249 to 362, therefore parading herself as the 2023 UTME top scorer, proffered an apology to the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board, JAMB, for her misdemeanor. Mesoma had engaged JAMB in accusation and counter-accusation, with the exam body slamming a 3-year ban on her before admitting the forgery. As the debate got heated, the House of Representatives waded in, calling for a stay of action on the imposed sanction. She, however, later owned up to forging her result during a probe by the Commission of Inquiry set up by the Anambra State government to look into the case. On Wednesday, she appeared before the House of Representatives ad hoc committee set up to look into the case. The JAMB registrar, Professor Ishak Oloyede, also appeared accompanied by top officials of the exam body. At the hearing, Mesoma pleaded for leniency, urging JAMB to lift the imposed 3-year ban. But in his submission, the JAMB registrar insisted that Mesoma intentionally conspired with other actors to forge her own results. He added that JAMB had shut down over 8 UTME centers that had been found wanting for infractions connecting to results manipulation. A recap of major stories says no less than 20 injured as Russia strikes again. Israeli troops kill Palestinian, 4 wounded. Moscow warns Ukraine-bound ships on Black Sea, 2 killed ahead of World Cup in New Zealand. And Stratford, president resigns after research probe. That's all on the news. Thanks for watching. I am Lois Dreki. Enjoy the rest of your day.